Chapter 1. Companies don't morph into an international mammoth overnight. It takes a steady grind. Founders understand what's at stake when starting a new business, especially in these unpredictably uncertain times when old thinking isn't reliable. We understand that the arduous path to business success may be treacherous at times, full of inconsistencies and unexpected turns. Yet, we also believe that every one of us has the potential to cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset that leads to success and scale. Great investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders like Airbnb's Brian Chesky, YouTube's Susan Wojcicki, Starbucks' Howard Schultz, Netflix's Reed Hastings, Apple's Angela Arendt, and media mogul Arianna Huffington are some of the great testimonies of successful scalers. Remember, sometimes like a rose from concrete, a tremendous idea emerges from adversity. Simply put, resistance generates friction, which causes sparks. These leaders come from a variety of businesses and nonprofit sectors worldwide, from tiny communities to housing developments in big cities and everywhere in between. Surprisingly, several of them have relatively similar winning techniques, as well as embarrassing gaffes and sad loss moments. In this synopsis, it may feel like you're listening in on a private chat between them and Reid Hoffman. As an entrepreneur and an investor, Reid understands what it takes to scale a business. He was instrumental in founding some of the most successful companies of our day, including PayPal and LinkedIn. In addition, he was among the first to see the potential in paradigm-shifting startups like Airbnb, Facebook, Zynga, Aurora, and Dropbox, among many others. First as an angel investor and then as an investor with Greylock Partners. Reid has even coined new terms such as blitzscaling, which refers to the pursuit of rapid expansion by emphasizing speed above efficiency, or risk-intelligent scaling, which refers to risk-aware scaling. Weaving these narratives together, we can see how one leader's insights link to another's ideas, with counsel and analysis strewn throughout the summary. So, seize the opportunity to unravel the secrets of growing a small, thriving business into a global power by following this piece through to the end. Chapter 2. As an entrepreneur, convincing investors about the viability and scalability of your idea can be exacting. The first rule of entrepreneurship and investing is that the most innovative ideas are always counterintuitive. They go so far against the popular belief that they appear hazardous and absurd. These are the types of concepts that get a lot of no's. So if you're selling a counterintuitive proposal, one that challenges the status quo and imagines a better way of doing things, be prepared to face a slew of rejections and learn from them. Start looking for more clues that you're onto something when you hear that chorus of no's. Remember, finding out that your business idea is a first-in-field, groundbreaking innovation might irritate regulators. When you're still young and untested in your job, and you're receiving no's from some of Silicon Valley's and New York City's brightest and most successful investors, it's hard not to wonder, what if the doubters are right? However, you must trust your instincts. An idea is at its most vulnerable in its infancy. Sarah Blakely. Why should a single vote of confidence trump a chorus of no's from an audience of investors? It's simply because certain no's are more important than others. Substantial no's can help you rethink your concept, while skeptical no's might make you reconsider the scope of opportunity. These are no's to pay attention to and learn from. Then there are the lazy no's, which you must immediately ignore and avoid. No matter how clever or skillful, every investor has an anti-portfolio, a list of firms that made a fortune without their investment. When these investors should have responded with a yes, they opted for no, and soon came to regret that decision. Keep in mind, many first-time investors fail to know that it doesn't matter how many no's you get in the end. The only thing you require is one appropriate yes. And there's something to be said about it. While it's true that accepting input, especially negative feedback, is critical to effectively growing a concept, not all feedback is created equal. And in some instances, obtaining early constructive criticism from outside specialists is preferable to getting it from individuals in your immediate circle. You may accidentally throw cold water on an idea to shield you from failure. Chapter 3. Enthusiastically embrace your humble beginnings. They're more pivotal than you think. You're going to get your hands filthy while producing a product or setting the foundation for a successful, scalable organization. You'll find yourself doing activities that seem minor and equally time-consuming. Coding, designing, serving clients, onboarding users, and answering the customer care line are fair examples. However, these are the factors that may decide how far your firm progresses in the coming years. This poses an almost Zen-like riddle for entrepreneurs. The first step to scale is to renounce your desire to scale. Reid Hoffman. This mindset should fuel the focus on super serving your early adopters and getting to know what they want and like. When you cultivate loyalty among a small number of endorsers, you create a narrow but deep wedge that serves as a firm foundation for growth. For example, Facebook was solely available to Harvard students when it began. Those initial students invited their friends, who invited their friends, and so on, until the whole student body was exchanging status updates. After then, Facebook grew from Harvard to Columbia to Stanford and other campuses around the country, and finally to the rest of the globe. It would not have expanded as far if its early users had not liked the social network. Remember, you don't need a particular degree or skills to thrive as an entrepreneur. You need the correct mentality. It starts by driving you to envision things you'd never be able to achieve in real life. Why? Because that's the only way to win. The central thesis to build a massively successful company is that you must create something people love so much they tell their friends about it. Of course, that implies you'll have to create something worth talking about. And you must go back to things that don't scale if you want to construct anything worth talking about. Entrepreneurs frequently have to establish trust quickly, whether with partners, investors, consumers, or coworkers. And the first thing you must realize is that rapid trust is nearly a contradiction in terms. Throughout a lengthy relationship, trust develops. It's better to have 100 users who love you than a million users who just kind of like you. Paul Graham. Chapter 4. The Myth of the Light Bulb Moment and How Big Ideas Materialize. The myth of the lightning strike, or the aha moment, exists among entrepreneurs when a great idea appears out of nowhere, settles in their laps, and instantly converts them into millionaires the following day. This imagined ease of idea materialization is virtually never the case. The most successful business people are often already on the lookout for major ideas, keeping track of them. They keep their eyes peeled for anything that can lead them to a solution and place themselves in settings where they are most likely to be inspired. Successful business people are continuously looking for chances and insights through the eyes of their network. So to come up with a big idea, you must actively seek it out. Remember, great entrepreneurs understand that not every idea will succeed. However, even if your initial concept doesn't take off, it can simply put you on the path to your next big idea. The idea of the lone genius is one of the most pervasive and detrimental fallacies in business today. We tend to tell heroic stories about creativity, a narrative about a single inventor, a creator, the founder. A genius comes up with a brilliant idea, and everyone else is in charge of putting the plan into action. Then everyone waits for the genius to come up with another brilliant idea. One of the most common blunders by entrepreneurs is clinging to their concept for too long. So, rather than standing in a dark room waiting for inspiration, they ought to pick a few individuals from their network who can provide honest criticism and then speak with them. This is the single most critical thing they can do to improve their concept. But you can't only look for encouragement. You must actively seek out constructive criticism as well. Otherwise, you'll primarily get nice compliments from people who don't want to offend you. And while praise might mean you feel good at the moment, it won't help you achieve. Big ideas are often based on formative experiences from your past. You never know exactly what parts of your past will come together to complete that puzzle and be a product that you want to build for the world. Kevin Systrom. Chapter 5. Company culture has transformative tendencies in the fate of the organization. When you're beginning a business, the first individuals you recruit aren't simply employees, they're also your cultural co-founders. Their abilities and competencies will decide what your firm can achieve and who it can be. Those initial workers determine the DNA of your firm as well as its culture. If you're the creator of a company, you're like a master distiller, in charge of selecting the perfect balance of ingredients to expand your business and hire the people who make up the soul of your culture. Building a strong culture that makes it apparent to workers what matters and how they should do things is essential to scaling up a successful company. Of course, a good culture isn't automatically a strong culture. Strength refers to how much culture influences employee behavior, for better or worse. However, if you create a strong yet negative culture, you'll hardly want to work for the firm you built. It is nice to have the right people on your bus, but it is even more critical to keep the wrong people off your bus. Adam Grant. There's also a role for active decision-making in a company's organizational culture. They educate you to make quick judgments over and over again in aviation. Decide, decide, decide. It's preferable to make a choice and then live with the consequences. Google's extraordinary development has necessitated quick decision-making for at least two reasons. The first is that it helped them stay ahead of the competition in the ever-changing internet search landscape. The second, and less well-known, is that quick choices encourage creativity. Running into bureaucratic red tape destroys creativity like nothing else. Most huge organizations have an excessive number of attorneys, decision-makers, and unclear owners, which cause things to solidify. Resource allocation, per time and based on conditions, is a choice that will have to be frequently made throughout operating a firm that aims to grow. These are a series of recurring and crucial decisions for any business, since they require determining how to allocate resources between existing, profitable products and new verticals or industries into which they want to develop and where they want to focus that development. Chapter 6. Waiting to attain perfection with a startup idea can become an impediment to scaling. Many believe that properly doing anything requires doing it slowly, thoughtfully, and secretly. That means taking your time to perfect it before revealing it to the rest of the world. You can only have one chance to create a first impression, as the adage goes. This tortured poet, alone in her garret agonizing over the placement of commas, could have a place in the arts, but with startups, that would be a self-sabotaging plan. The difficulty is that you base a lot of what you believe you know about what customers want and what will and won't work in the actual world on assumptions that no one has yet tested. The solution is to put such speculations to the test as soon as possible. Remember, to gain quick feedback, be willing to regularly share your faulty work in progress with the outside world from early on. Many leaders have learned that the best way to get to know their customers is to listen to them. 1. Conduct a survey. 2. Hold focus groups with them. 3. Examine their online reviews, social media posts, and incoming emails. These tactics will bring you closer to your users, allowing you to understand better what your product means to them and identify growth potential. However, paying attention to users might lead you wrong. So if you genuinely want to learn from your consumers, you must be willing to follow them wherever they lead. Even if that means allowing them to hijack your product and use it in ways you never planned. You may, of course, always seek input. However, there are occasions when it is beneficial to disregard what people say and observe what they do. Treating your consumers as scouts, testing the boundaries of your early products, and bringing back significant ideas are some of the best ways to draw cues from what they do, rather than what they say. Then you must hone your ability to comprehend that data and ensure that you are prepared to act on it as rapidly as possible. Did you know, according to Forbes, most inventions, 42%, fail because of their extensive development periods. Meanwhile, 32% of innovation failures are due to choosing the wrong concept to innovate. Chapter 7. Startups sometimes fail, only to reemerge as a different but foolproof entity. When you closely look at successful firms, you'll see that many of them started as something entirely different, then pivoted to become what scaled and flourished. However, most successful pivots maintain something near the company's initial objective, even when they require a significant product or business strategy shift. That was the case with Ev Williams, the co-founder of Twitter, and a serial pivoter whose 4 firms may appear unconnected at first glance. Still, all sprang from the same objective that Williams pursued for the better part of his adult life. Keep in mind, it's simple to destroy a failing product. It's considerably more difficult to terminate one that has the potential to scale. How can you assist your company in navigating a crisis? By considering the business and the people connected in it, both inside and outside the organization. It's more necessary than ever in times of crisis to take a breath and say, okay, let me be a human first. Let me double check that I'm being accountable to my coworkers, my neighbor, and my society. Can you tell me what I need to do? Start with compassion and care. Not just for the firm and its workers, but also for the community, families, and society. But don't stop there. Firms lose character as they develop by choosing to praise and reward the what rather than the how. You need a clear vision of what you want to do and how you want to achieve it. You should convey your ideas often and loudly, especially if your company has grown to the point where you're sending messages to 5,000, 10,000, or 15,000 people. There's a greater distance between you and the leadership with more people, which means you'll have to beat the drum harder and more frequently just to be heard. Conclusion. Each of us aspires to make an impact in our unique way, particularly on those closest to us, our families, friends, and coworkers. Some aim higher, hoping that the ideas will spread beyond their immediate networks, touching communities and affecting people beyond their physical reach. And a handful has even larger ambitions. We dream of transforming the world, of accomplishing something never done before, or at least not in this way, of breaking existing models and constructing new ones, of seeing our business and social change plans reach self-perpetuating rapid development. We aspire to achieve scale. Understand that most people will inform you that you're completely bonkers and make you second-guess what you know to be true in your bones. However, it would help not to let rejection rule you. Allow it to fuel you instead. Doubters teach you more about their preconceptions than how the world truly works in the instance of the telling no. Their no's should sound to your sharp ears like, yes, the consensus view is overlooking this chance. I believe you're not just responsible for scaling your world-changing idea. You're also responsible for stewarding its development and wider use. Reid Hoffman. As an entrepreneur, you should evaluate potential employees for cultural fit, which is a perfect match between the individual and the culture versus cultural growth, which is the concept that this employee will help expand your culture by building upon your existing base. Consider cultural fit as a kind of cultural progress. This perspective enables you to focus on critical activities like strengthening diversity and inclusion as part of your company culture. Try this. To scale your startup quickly without crashing after a meteoric surge, try the following Reid Hoffman's business growth theories, which have a proven track record. Recognize that business conditions are constantly shifting. Start quickly, but don't overwork yourself. Rapid decision-making is essential for rapid growth. Allow the flames to burn. When running a fast-growing business, you must keep pushing forward. Ensure there is enough money left over to cover a plan B and try new things. Consider an investor to be a later-stage co-founder, someone who knows you and your company's mission.